You are holding a book about a system, but at its heart, it is a book about liberation. Not the distant, someday sort of liberation that shows up after a promotion or when the stars align and the noise quiets. No, this is the kind of liberation that arrives quietly, tomorrow morning, when you step into your day with a compass instead of a calendar, and for the first time in a long time, you know which way is up. We live in an age addicted to busyness. Our routines are crowded, our lists infinite, our decisions unending, and yet, beneath the movement, there lingers a subtle ache, a suspicion that effort alone cannot build a life worth living. You may have felt it yourself, racing through days so packed with activity that you collapse into bed exhausted, but curiously untouched, as if none of it quite belonged to you. This book is for those who have grown tired of drift. It is for the ambitious who sense there must be a finer distinction between productive and flourishing. It is for those who crave alignment between what they do, who they are becoming, and the meaning they long to deliver into the world. Aristotle believed that greatness is not an accident nor a single act, but a habit, the product of structure and purpose, lived out in the smallest moments of the day. He called this teleology, a life architected toward an end, each action a vote for the person you are willing to become. That is the foundation of this book, not a parade of hacks or a quick fix, but a daily operating system that lets you live and build with intention. Inside these pages, you will find a blueprint, how to write your telos, a clear, animating purpose, and use it as the filter for your choices. You will discover the identity forge, the process by which character is not wished for, but deliberately forged in the fire of repetition. You will learn how to claim your mornings before the world lays claim to you, how to balance emotion so judgment stays steady, how to make wise decisions in the gray and ambiguous, and how to grow skills that anchor confidence instead of feeding imposter syndrome. You will be shown how to harmonize your roles so that your weeks cohere, and how to review your days so that nothing, no lesson, no error, no small win, slips away unused. This is not a promise that change will be easy. It is a promise that change is possible, and that your daily routine can become a lever for transformation, regardless of how many times you have failed, stalled, or doubted before. If you are ready to move beyond survival and toward flourishing, to become an architect rather than an occupant of your own days, the system is in your hands. Begin with a single sentence. Build a single day. Test the chain, one link at a time. The mountain waits. Let's begin the climb. Chapter 1: True North. Everything you know about finding your passion might be a total lie. You have been told to follow your feelings, but feelings are weather, and you cannot build a foundation on the wind. Look at your last week. You were busy. You were exhausted. You crushed your to-do list, answered every email, and attended every meeting. Yet, if you are honest, you feel a haunting sensation that you are moving at high speed toward absolutely nowhere. This is the paradox of the modern high performer. You are drowning in opportunity, but starving for direction. You are experiencing the symptom stack of a life without a true north. Your days are fragmented. You score shallow wins that vanish by the next morning. You make 100 decisions a day, but they feel random because you lack a filter to screen them. Stress spikes and confidence dips because you are reacting to the world rather than imposing your will upon it. Your relationships suffer from your inconsistency, not because you do not care, but because you have nothing solid to anchor them to. The problem is not your work ethic. The problem is not your intelligence. The problem is that you lack a telos. In the absence of a clear end, you allocate your time based on urgency rather than virtue. You drift, and drift is not a lack of movement. It is movement without a destination. It is the most dangerous state for a human being because it disguises itself as progress. You are digging a hole, and you are digging it very efficiently, but you have forgotten to ask if you are digging in the right place. This chapter stops the digging. We are going to pin down a clear direction for your days so you stop drifting. We will name your end in view, define your function, and set aims that actually steer your choices. The architecture of flourishing. Aristotle, the great architect of human purpose, did not believe in random action. He treated life as teleological, which means it is ordered toward an end. He argued that just as an archer must have a target to shoot at, a human being must have a clear aim to live well. He called this ultimate aim eudaimonia. Translators often weaken this word to happiness, but that is a mistake. Happiness is a mood. Eudaimonia is a condition. It is human flourishing. It is the state of living up to your full potential, of functioning exactly as you were designed to function. But to flourish, you must know what your function is. Aristotle called this your ergon, your proper work. A knife's ergon is to cut. If it cuts well, it is a good knife. An eye's ergon is to see. If it sees clearly, it is a good eye. What is your ergon? It is the role you are built to play, defined by your unique strengths, your responsibilities, and your station in life. When you define your telos, your ultimate target, and understand your ergon, you create a filter for reality. You stop asking, "What do I feel like doing?" and start asking, "What does my target require?" This shift triggers a powerful flywheel. Direction leads to repetition, and repetition leads to identity. This is the core mechanism of this book. A clear end steers your choices. Repeated choices harden into character, or hexis. Once character is formed, making the right choice becomes easy. It becomes who you are. The aim here is not abstract philosophy. It is a practical compass you will use to navigate the chaos of the daily grind. The cost of aimlessness. If you refuse to define your true north, you are signing a contract for the copy-paste year. You will reach the end of this year having achieved the exact same results as the last one, plagued by the same slip-ups and the same hollow victories. You will increase your inputs, more hours, more stress, more effort, but your outcomes will remain flat. Trust will erode at the edges of your life because people cannot rely on a drifter. Eventually, stress stops being a temporary state and becomes your identity. This aimlessness levies a heavy tax on your mind. We call it the decision tax. When you do not know where you are going, every fork in the road requires a negotiation. Should I take this project? Should I go to this dinner? Should I work late? You exhaust your mental energy before noon just trying to figure out what matters. You become reactive. In tough moments, your tone snaps. You miss the compounding interest of character because you never stick to one path long enough to see the returns. You mistake freedom for the ability to do anything, when true freedom is the discipline to do the right thing. The system that built a master. To escape the drift, you need more than a goal. You need a system. Aristotle did not just preach high ideals. He built a practical framework for living them. Over the course of this book, we are going to construct that framework together. It starts here with true north, but a compass is useless if the traveler collapses under the weight of the journey. Once you have your aim, you must forge a self that can carry it. We will explore the identity forge, where you will convert your values into identity statements that hold up under pressure. We will construct a morning design that owns the opening minutes of your day so the rest of the hours obey you. We will teach you emotion balance, training your feelings to serve your judgment rather than hijacking it. You will learn the art of wise action, turning good intentions into decisive moves, and skill growth, ensuring you get better on purpose every single week. We will achieve work harmony, designing a rhythm where your roles support rather than sabotage each other. Finally, we will master the deep review, harvesting lessons from every day to prime the next. This is the system. It is an interlocking chain where each link reinforces the next. But the chain must be anchored to something. It must be anchored to your telos. Without the target, the arrow goes nowhere. Defining your end in view. You are going to define your true north right now. You are going to draft a one-sentence telos. This is not a mission statement that gathers dust in a drawer. It is a decision filter you will post where you work, a visible statement you consult before every commitment. To find it, you must articulate your personal definition of flourishing. What does the best version of your life look like? Not the easiest version, but the one where you are functioning at your peak. Strip away the corporate buzzwords and the expectations of your parents or peers. Use plain words. Align this statement with the virtues you admire most: courage, justice, wisdom, temperance. Your telos statement should follow a simple structure. I exist to action so that impact. It must be broad enough to cover your life, but sharp enough to cut through the noise. For example, I exist to bring order to chaos so that those around me can build with confidence. Or, I exist to create beauty and truth so that others are inspired to live fully. Write it down. Test it. Does it guide trade-offs? If you are offered a high-paying job that requires you to create chaos and deceive people, does your telos help you say no immediately? If yes, it is working. If not, sharpen it. This sentence is your North Star. When the fog of war descends on your week, you look at this sentence and you know which way is up. The Day 1 routine. Philosophy without action is just daydreaming. You need a routine to operationalize your true north immediately. You do not need to wait until you have finished the book to start changing your life. You begin today with a simple 3-step protocol. First, the morning intention. Before you check your phone, before you engage with the world, write down one sentence that combines a virtue and a priority. Today, I will practice patience by listening fully in the team meeting. This sets the trajectory. Second, the hard start block. Dedicate the first 10 minutes of your workday to the single most important task that aligns with your telos. Not email, not Slack. The hard thing, do it for 10 minutes. Momentum will often carry you further, but the commitment is only 10. Third, the evening review. At the end of the day, take 2 minutes to log 3 choices you made that aligned with your true north. This closes the loop. It proves to your brain that you are the kind of person who lives by a code. This simple cycle, intention, action, review, is the heartbeat of the Aristotelian life. The divide between drift and destiny. There is a stark difference in the attitude of those who build a life and those who merely endure it. Winners choose their ends and build their days to reach them. They track their promises and keep them. They seek correction because they care more about being better than looking good. They are calm, fair, and courageous under fire because they know who they are and where they are going. Losers chase moods. They wait to feel like it. They blame luck when things go wrong and take credit when things go right. They overpromise and underdeliver because they have no filter for their time. They avoid feedback because it hurts their ego. They are loud in talk, but light in proof. You have a choice. You can continue to drift, letting the currents of urgency and other people's demands wash you onto whatever shore they please. Or you can plant your flag. You can decide that your life is a project to be designed, not an accident to be experienced. You can decide that you are an architect, not a victim. The missing engine. You now have your target. You have your true north. You know where you want to go, and you have a glimpse of the person you must become to get there. The fog has lifted, and the peak of the mountain is visible. But seeing the mountain is not climbing it. The path between here and there is steep. It is paved with distractions, fatigue, and the heavy gravity of your old habits. You can stare at your telos all day, but if you crumble the moment stress hits, your map is worthless. Motivation is a spark, but it is not fuel. To make the climb, you need something more durable than willpower. You need a psychological engine that drives you forward even when you are tired, even when you are bored, even when the world is against you. You need to forge something that feels unbreakable. We have the map. Now we need the vehicle. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Identity Forge. You have likely experienced the specific agony of the Day 3 crash. You set a massive goal on Monday, fueled by a surge of high-octane motivation. You are going to change everything. You execute perfectly on Monday. You grit your teeth and get through Tuesday. But by Wednesday, the motivation has evaporated, leaving you staring at a difficult task with no emotional fuel in the tank. You skip it. You tell yourself you will make it up tomorrow. You do not. The goal collapses, and you are left with another layer of evidence that you are not the person you claim to be. The problem is not your willpower. The problem is that you are trying to build a skyscraper on a swamp. You are attempting to change what you do without changing who you are. You are relying on a mood to do the work of a character. This stops now. We are going to stop chasing the fleeting high of inspiration and start building something fireproof. We are entering the identity forge. Here, we do not just list tasks, we manufacture traits. We are going to translate your abstract values into concrete identity statements and wire them into small, repeatable actions that you cannot fail to execute. This is how you build a routine that survives when you are tired, stressed, and overwhelmed. This is how you forge a self you can rely on. The architecture of character. Aristotle understood something about human nature that modern productivity gurus often miss. He argued that we do not act rightly because we have virtue. Rather, we have virtue because we have acted rightly. He called this hexis, a settled disposition, a state of character that becomes second nature. Think of your character like a block of metal in a forge. A single strike of the hammer does not change its shape permanently. It takes heat and thousands of repetitive strikes to turn raw iron into a useful tool. Every time you make a choice, you are striking the hammer. You are casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. When you operate from a to-do list, you are constantly negotiating with yourself. You look at the task and ask, do I feel like doing this? But when you operate from identity, the negotiation ends. A vegetarian does not walk past a steakhouse and struggle with the decision to not go in. They simply do not eat meat. It is not a struggle, it is a fact of their existence. We are going to apply this same logic to your work, your focus, and your integrity. We are going to move you from I am trying to be organized to I am the kind of person who prepares. The difference seems subtle, but it is the difference between an amateur who hopes to win and a professional who trains to win. The myth of intensity. There is a pervasive lie that tells you transformation requires massive, sweeping gestures. You think you need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You think you need to wake up 3 hours earlier, read a book a day, and never make a mistake again. This is the go big or go home trap, and it is why you fail. Intensity makes for a great movie montage, but it is terrible for building character. Intensity burns out. Frequency is what matters. Aristotle's engine of character is built on repetition, not heroism. A small action, repeated daily without fail, cuts a deeper groove in your psyche than a massive action taken once a month. When you rely on intensity, you are fragile. If you miss a day, the streak is broken and you feel like a failure. When you rely on frequency and identity, a missed rep is just a data point, not a catastrophe. You simply get back to the forge and strike the hammer again. We are not looking for a week of perfection. We are looking for a lifetime of consistency. We are building a hexis that holds you upright when the world tries to knock you down. Drafting your code. To enter the forge, you must first define the blueprint. You cannot just say, I want to be better. That is too vague to steer a ship. You need specific, present-tense identity statements that define your operating system. We will limit this to 5 core identities. Any more than 5, and you will lose focus. These statements must start with the phrase, I am the kind of person who, or simply, I am. They must be anchored in the virtues you defined in your true north, but they must be actionable. Consider the virtue of justice. Your identity statement might be, I am a fair dealer. This is not a wish, it is a declaration. Consider the virtue of courage. Your statement, I practice courage. Note the word practice. It implies that courage is not something you have, but something you do. Consider the virtue of wisdom. Your statement, I prepare before acting. Consider the virtue of reliability. Your statement, I keep promises. Consider the virtue of growth. Your statement, I learn daily. These 5 lines are your code. They are the filter through which you view your obligations. When a difficult email lands in your inbox, you do not ask, what is the easiest way to handle this? You ask, what would a fair dealer do? And then you do it. The identity cuts the decision time in half because the standard has already been set. The hammer and the anvil. A declaration is nothing without proof. You can tell yourself you are a fair dealer all day long, but if you constantly cut corners, your brain will know you are a liar. You must prove your identity to yourself. You do this through daily reps. For each of your 5 identity statements, you must bind a single, non-negotiable action. This action must be small, so small that you can do it on your worst day. This is crucial. If your action is write for 2 hours, you will fail when you are sick or busy. If your action is write 1 true sentence, you can do that in a hospital bed. For the identity, I keep promises. Your rep is to log 1 promise you made and confirm you kept it. It could be as small as sending a document when you said you would. For I practice courage, your rep is 1 courageous microact. It might be speaking up in a meeting or admitting a small error. For I prepare before acting, your rep is completing a pre-flight checklist before starting your deep work. For I learn daily, your rep is capturing 1 learning note. These are your hammer strikes. They seem insignificant in isolation, but they are compounding assets. Every time you execute a rep, you are depositing trust in your own account. You are proving to yourself that you are who you say you are. Over time, this creates a massive psychological shift. You stop hoping you will follow through and start expecting it. Engineering the environment. Willpower is a finite resource, and you should not waste it on remembering to be virtuous. You need to offload the cognitive burden to your environment. You need cues. Write your 5 identity statements on a physical card. Put it in your wallet or tape it to your monitor. This is your visual anchor. When you sit down to work, that card is staring at you. It reminds you of the standard you have set. Next, remove the friction. If your identity is, I prepare before acting, but your checklist is buried in a complicated software folder, you won't use it. Put the checklist on your desk. Make the right action the easiest action. Conversely, add friction to the behaviors that contradict your identity. If you are a focused creator, but your phone is constantly buzzing, you are sabotaging your own forge. Put the phone in a drawer. You must also prepare for the inevitable slip. You will miss a rep. You will have a day where you are lazy, cowardly, or unprepared. The amateur uses this as an excuse to quit. The professional has a protocol for failure. The rule is simple: never miss twice. If you miss a rep today, you must hit it tomorrow. Recovery beats perfection. The goal is not a pristine streak. The goal is a resilient character. The compound interest of trust. Why go through all this trouble? Why not just work hard and hope for the best? Because the ultimate payout of the identity forge is trust. First, you build internal trust. When you know that you are the kind of person who keeps promises, your anxiety drops. You stop worrying about whether you will step up when it counts because you have thousands of data points proving that you will. You gain a calmness that cannot be faked. Second, you build external trust. People smell inconsistency. They know when someone is faking it. But when you show up day after day, year after year, governed by a stable set of identity traits, you become a beacon in a chaotic world. Opportunities flow to the reliable. Leadership is given to the steady. You acquire a trust premium where people give you the benefit of the doubt, offer you the best projects, and follow your lead because they know exactly what they are getting. The trap of boredom. There is a danger here that we must address. Doing the same small reps every day is not exciting. It is boring. And because we are addicted to novelty, we interpret boredom as a sign that something is wrong. We think we need to change the routine to make it fun. Do not do this. Boredom is not a signal to quit. It is the gatekeeper of mastery. The greatest athletes, writers, and leaders in history were all willing to endure the boredom of the basics long after everyone else had moved on to the next shiny object. When you feel bored with your identity reps, realize that you are finally doing the real work. You are grinding the steel. Stick with it. Launching the protocol. You're going to start this today, not next week. Today. Draft your 5 statements. Keep them short. Keep them present tense. I am. Define your 5 micro reps. Make them laughably small. Create your tracking log. A simple piece of paper with checkboxes is better than a complex app. Do your first rep right now. If your identity is I am a learner, write down one thing you have learned from this chapter so far. If your identity is I prepare, clear your desk. Strike the hammer once, then do it again tomorrow. The invisible saboteur. You now have a true north to aim for and an identity forged to build the character required to get there. You have the destination and the vehicle. But there is a threat we have not yet neutralized. It is a threat that waits for you every single morning, lurking in the gap between your alarm clock and your first conscious thought. You can have the clearest telos and the strongest identity, but if you lose the battle for your attention in the first 10 minutes of the day, you have lost the day. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their mind to the agenda of others. They check their notifications, and instantly they are reactive. They are not architects, they are firefighters. To protect the identity you are forging, you need to build a fortress around the opening moments of your consciousness. You need a protocol that ensures the first voice you hear is your own, and the first move you make is one of command, not compliance. If you cannot control your morning, you cannot control your life. And the secret to owning that morning lies in a sequence so simple, most people overlook it entirely. Chapter 3, Morning Design. You wake up, and the siege begins immediately. Before your feet even touch the floor, you reach for your phone. It is an almost autonomic reflex, a muscle memory carved into your brain by 1,000 mornings of weakness. You unlock the screen, and the world floods in. An urgent email from a client, a Slack notification from a stressed colleague, a news headline designed to spike your cortisol, a social media feed showcasing someone else's curated perfection. In 3 minutes, you have surrendered. You have not even brushed your teeth, and you are already reacting. You are not the general of your army. You are a casualty of someone else's war. You spend the rest of the day clawing back the mental territory you lost in those first few moments. You feel busy, but you are actually just flailing. You are experiencing the drift we talked about in Chapter 1, but now you see exactly where it starts. It starts on the pillow. If you lose the morning, you spend the rest of the day negotiating with yourself. You bargain for focus, you plead for energy, but the leverage is gone. This chapter is about taking back the launch codes. We are not talking about a 2-hour spa ritual involving journaling, meditation, and yoga on a mountaintop. We are talking about a tactical, military-grade intervention to own the opening minutes of your day so the rest of the hours obey you. We are going to design a morning that makes the right action, the default action. The physics of trajectory. Aristotle did not have a smartphone, but he understood the concept of path dependence. In physics and in life, the initial conditions of a system determine its long-term behavior. If a rocket on a launch pad is off by a single degree at liftoff, it does not miss the moon by a few feet. It misses by thousands of miles. Your morning is the launch pad. The choices you make in the first 30 minutes anchor the pattern for the next 16 hours. If your first act is one of distraction, you are training your brain to seek dopamine hits rather than deep focus. You are priming yourself for reactivity. Conversely, if your first act is one of deliberate intent, you set a trajectory of command. Attention is a finite resource. You wake up with a full tank of cognitive fuel. Every decision you make burns a little bit of that fuel. When you scroll through your phone, you are burning premium fuel on junk miles. By the time you sit down to do your actual work, your ergon, you are already running on fumes. This is why you feel exhausted by 11 a.m. despite having accomplished nothing of substance. We are going to stop this leakage. We are going to construct a morning design that protects your attention like the scarce asset it is. The trap of the perfect ritual. There is a myth in the productivity world that a morning routine must be a long, elaborate sequence of self-care. You've seen the videos. The influencers who wake up at 4 a.m., take an ice bath, read 50 pages, and meditate for an hour before they even look at a computer. If that works for you, fine. But for most high performers, complexity is the enemy of execution. When you build a routine that requires 90 minutes of perfect adherence, you are building a fragile system. The moment you oversleep or have an early meeting, the whole thing collapses. You miss one step, you feel like a failure, and you abandon the routine entirely. We are going to build something anti-fragile. We are aiming for trajectory, not perfection. We need a protocol that is short, sharp, and durable. It should take no more than 10 minutes to execute, but it must be potent enough to shift your psychology from consumer to creator. We are not trying to win a contest for the best lifestyle. We are trying to win the day. The launch codes. The protocol consists of 3 specific maneuvers. You do not need to feel inspired to do them. You just need to execute them. First, you must articulate the intention line. This ties directly back to your true north. Before you engage with the world, you write down one single sentence. This sentence must combine a virtue you want to embody with a priority you must execute. It looks like this. Today I choose focus by completing the strategy draft before noon. Or, today I choose patience by listening without interrupting in the board meeting. Why do we combine a virtue and a priority? Because a priority without a virtue is just a chore. When you attach a virtue, focus, courage, fairness, diligence, you elevate the task. You turn a to-do list item into an identity rep. This sentence is your filter. When a distraction arises, you look at the line. Does this distraction help you practice focus? No? Then it dies. Second, you must preview the 3 choices. You cannot make every decision perfectly, but you can pre-decide the ones that matter. Look at your calendar. Look at your task list. Identify the 3 moments today where you are most likely to slip. Maybe it is the decision to work out. Maybe it is the decision to give honest feedback to a difficult employee. Maybe it is the decision to close your email for an hour. Write them down. Pre-commit to the default action. When 2 p.m. hits, I will close Slack. When the client asks for a discount, I will hold the line. By making these decisions now, while your brain is fresh, you save yourself the agony of wrestling with them later when you are tired. You are front-loading your willpower. The hard start block. The third maneuver is the most critical. It is the weapon that destroys procrastination. It is called the hard start block. Most people start their workday by easing in. They check email. They organize their desktop. They get a drink. They are waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a feeling, and feelings are fickle. You will never feel ready to do hard work. The resistance will always be there. The hard start block bypasses the need for readiness. You commit to doing the single hardest, most important task on your list for exactly 10 minutes. That is it. You set a timer. You close every other tab. You put your phone in another room. For 10 minutes, you do the thing you are dreading. Why 10 minutes? Because anyone can do anything for 10 minutes. It is a low enough bar that your brain does not rebel. But here is the secret, the physics of friction. The hardest part of any task is the start. It takes massive energy to get a stationary object moving. Once it is moving, momentum takes over. In almost every case, when the 10-minute timer goes off, you will not stop. You will keep going because you have broken the surface tension. You are in the flow. But even if you do stop, you have done more in those 10 minutes than most people do in 4 hours of easing in. You have proven to yourself that you are a person who attacks the difficult things first. You have won the morning. Engineering the cockpit. You cannot rely on willpower to execute this protocol. You must use choice architecture. This means arranging your environment so that the right action is the easy action and the wrong action is the hard action. If you sleep with your phone on your nightstand, you will check it. That is a certainty. You are fighting a billion-dollar algorithm with a sleepy prefrontal cortex. You will lose. The solution is not more discipline. The solution is distance. Put the phone in the kitchen. Put it in the bathroom. Buy an old-fashioned alarm clock. Create a device quarantine for the first 30 minutes of your day. Make it physically difficult to fail. The night before, stage your environment. If your hard start task is writing a report, open the document and leave it on your screen. Close your email tabs. When you sit down in the morning, the work should be staring you in the face. There should be zero friction between you and the task. You want to slide into the work before your brain has a chance to object. This is how you respect the ergon, your function. A pilot does not wander into the cockpit and start pressing random buttons. They run a checklist. They ensure the systems are go. Your environment is your cockpit. Treat it with the same level of professional seriousness. The decision tax. Let us look at what happens if you ignore this. Let's look at the decision tax you pay when you drift through your morning. You wake up late. You rush. You check email and see a problem. Now you are stressed. You have to decide what to wear, what to pack, what to do first. Every one of these micro decisions chips away at your resolve. By the time you get to work, you have made 50 trivial choices. You sit down and you are already tired. You decide to check the news just for a minute to reset. 30 minutes vanish. Now you are behind. The pressure mounts. You snap at a colleague. You grab the easiest task on your list, not the most important one. This is the life of a loser. I do not mean that as an insult. I mean it literally. You are losing the battle for your own life. You are losing your agency. You are letting the world dictate your reality. Now look at the winner. The winner wakes up. The phone is not there. The mind is clear. They write their intention line. Today, I choose courage. They review their 3 choices. They sit down, the document is already open, and they execute a hard start block. By 9 a.m., they have done the most important work of the day. They are calm. They are dangerous. They are operating on a different level because they refuse to pay the tax. Troubleshooting the system. You will try this, and you will stumble. That is expected. The most common pitfall is distraction creep. You start with a strict quarantine, but slowly you start checking just one app. Maybe it is the weather, then it is the calendar, then it is the news. The fix is a whitelist. If you must use a device for music or a timer, whitelist only those apps. Delete the others or block them during the morning hours. Be ruthless. Your attention is your wealth. Do not let thieves into the vault. Another pitfall is vague intentions. You write, be productive. That is garbage. It is too fluffy. It gives you nowhere to hide. Be specific. Finish the Q3 analysis. Draft the proposal. Specificity drives action. Ambiguity drives procrastination. The momentum of trust. When you execute this morning design, something shifts in your self-perception. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your schedule. You start seeing yourself as the architect of your time. This builds a profound sense of self-trust. You know that no matter how chaotic the world gets, you have a fortress. You have a launch sequence that works. This lowers your baseline anxiety. You are not worried about whether you will have a good day. You know you will have a good start, and a good start is the best predictor of a good day. You have defined your true north. You have forged your identity. Now you have secured the morning. You are moving with speed and direction. You are becoming a force of nature. But here is the catch. You can have the perfect aim, the strongest character, and the cleanest start, and you can still be derailed in an instant. There is a variable we have not yet accounted for. It is volatile, it is powerful, and it lives inside you. It is the sudden flare of anger when you are insulted. It is the creeping paralysis of fear when the stakes are high. It is the overwhelming urge to quit when the pressure mounts. You have mastered your schedule, but you have not yet mastered your internal storm. If you cannot regulate the chemical floods that hijack your brain, all your planning is worthless. The next step is not about what you do. It is about how you handle the fire without getting burned. Chapter 4. Emotion Balance. You know the exact moment you lost the negotiation. It wasn't when you signed the contract, and it wasn't when you walked out of the room. It was 20 minutes earlier, when a subtle, condescending comment from across the table spiked your heart rate by 10 beats per minute. You felt the heat rise in your neck. A red fog descended over your logic. In that split second, your carefully prepared strategy evaporated, replaced by a primal urge to win an argument rather than the deal. You snapped back with a sharp retort. You felt a momentary rush of satisfaction, followed immediately by the sinking realization that you had just handed over your leverage. This is the universal human experience of the emotional hijack. You are intelligent, you are prepared, and you are capable, but you are also a biological machine wired for survival, not for corporate strategy. When the pressure spikes, your ancient brain overrides your modern mind. You react instead of responding. You destroy trust that took years to build in a matter of seconds. And the worst part is the aftermath, the replay loop at 2 a.m. where you watch yourself lose control, wondering why you cannot simply stay cool when it counts. Most people believe they have only two options in this scenario. Option 1 is to follow your heart, which usually leads to impulsive disasters. Option 2 is to suppress everything, to become a stone-faced robot who feels nothing. Both of these are wrong. The first makes you chaotic, the second makes you brittle. There is a third way, a strategy used by the most effective leaders in history, and it is the secret behind the title of this chapter. We are not here to eliminate your emotions. We are here to balance them. We are going to train your feelings to serve your judgment instead of hijacking it. The architecture of the golden mean. Aristotle offered a radical insight into human emotion that contradicts much of what we are taught today. He did not view anger, fear, or desire as bad emotions to be deleted. He viewed them as raw energy that requires calibration. He argued that virtue is not the absence of feeling, it is the golden mean, the perfect middle ground between excess and deficiency. Think of a volume dial on a stereo. If the volume is at 0, you cannot hear the music. If the volume is at maximum, the speakers blow out and your ears bleed. The right volume depends on the context. A dinner party requires a level 3, a dance floor requires a level 9. Apply this to your life. Take the emotion of fear. If you have a deficiency of fear, too little volume, you become rash. You take stupid risks that destroy your capital or your reputation. If you have an excess of fear, too much volume, you become a coward. You freeze when you should act. But in the middle, at the golden mean, fear transforms into courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the right amount of fear, managed correctly, to keep you sharp without paralyzing you. This is what we mean by emotion balance. It is the ability to look at a situation and dial your internal state to the setting that fits the facts. It is not suppression, it is alignment. When your emotions are aligned with your reason, you become formidable. You can be angry enough to defend a boundary, but calm enough to articulate it clearly. You can be cautious enough to spot a risk, but bold enough to seize the opportunity. The circuit breaker protocol. Understanding the theory of the golden mean is easy. Applying it when your blood is boiling is hard. You cannot reason your way out of a hijack once it has fully taken hold. You need a circuit breaker. You need a fast, mechanical loop that interrupts the physiological cascade of stress before it reaches your mouth. We call this the 60-second regulation loop. It consists of 4 steps: notice, name, normalize, and nudge. You must run this loop the moment you feel the shift in your physiology. The first step is to notice. Your body always knows you are angry before your mind does. Your jaw tightens, your stomach drops, your breathing becomes shallow. Most people ignore these signals until it is too late. You must train yourself to treat these physical sensations as an alarm bell. The moment you feel the heat, you stop. You do not speak. You do not type. You just notice. The second step is to name. You must attach a label to the sensation. I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling anxious. I am feeling disrespected. This sounds like therapy fluff, but it is hard neuroscience. When you are emotional, your amygdala, the threat center, is lighting up. When you assign a word to the feeling, you force your prefrontal cortex, the logic center, to come online. The simple act of naming an emotion dampens its intensity. You are moving from being the anger to observing the anger. The third step is to normalize. You tell yourself, it is okay to feel this. This is information. If you judge yourself for being angry, you add a layer of shame on top of the anger, which only makes the explosion worse. Accept the data. The client is being difficult. It is natural to feel irritation. The fourth step is to nudge. You cannot think your way into a new state. You have to act your way into it. You need a physical intervention to lower your arousal. Take a deep breath. Drop your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Take a sip of water. This is not about relaxing into a nap. It is about down-regulating your nervous system just enough to get back into the driver's seat. Calibrating your dials. Once you have broken the circuit and regained control, you have a job to do. You must set your dial. You must ask the Aristotelian question, what is the fitting response to this specific situation? Most people have a broken default setting. Some people default to conflict avoidance regardless of the situation. Others default to aggression. To build a life that runs on rails, you must predecide your virtue dials for common stressors. Imagine you are heading into a difficult feedback session with a team member. If your dial is set too low, apathy, you will not be clear and the problem will persist. If your dial is set too high, harshness, you will crush their morale. You need to consciously set the dial to candor, the mean between silence and cruelty. You visualize what that looks like. You rehearse the tone. You prepare to be firm but fair. Consider the dial of temperance when you are facing a distraction or a temptation to procrastinate. The deficiency is self-indulgence, doing whatever feels good in the moment. The excess is insensibility, a grim refusal to enjoy anything. The mean is temperance, enjoying the right things at the right time. By consciously checking your dial, you can choose to work now so you can fully enjoy your rest later, rather than mixing the two into a slurry of guilt. The vocabulary of control. One of the reasons you struggle to regulate your emotions is that you lack the language to describe them. If the only words you have are good, bad, angry, and stressed, your emotional intelligence is operating at a kindergarten level. You cannot fix a machine if you do not know the names of the parts. You need to build a personal word bank. You need to expand your vocabulary so you can diagnose your state with precision. There is a world of difference between being furious and being disappointed. There is a massive gap between anxious and alert. Furious might require you to leave the room. Disappointed might require a calm conversation about expectations. Anxious might paralyze you. Alert tells you to pay attention to details. When you use the wrong label, you trigger the wrong response. Start collecting words. When you feel a pang of something, hunt for the precise adjective. Are you jealous? Are you lonely? Are you overwhelmed? Are you resentful? The more specific you can be, the more power you have. Keep a list of 12 high-definition emotion words on your phone. Review them. When the pressure hits, scan the list. Finding the right word is like finding the key to a locked door. It opens the way to reason. The trap of passive calm. There is a dangerous misunderstanding that often occurs when people start doing this work. They confuse emotion balance with passivity. They think the goal is to never raise their voice, to never be upset, to smile through every insult. This is not the golden mean. This is the deficiency of spirit. Aristotle would tell you that there are times when you should be angry. If you see an injustice and you feel nothing, that is not a virtue, that is a vice. The goal is not to eliminate the fire, the goal is to aim the fire. Do not use calm as an excuse for avoidance. If you use your breathing exercises to talk yourself out of having a necessary conflict, you are abusing the tool. You regulate your emotion so that you can act effectively, not so you can retreat comfortably. Always pair your regulation with action. After you have noticed, named, normalized, and nudged, ask yourself, what is the next right move? The calm is not the destination. The calm is the platform from which you launch the action. If you are calm but you do nothing, you are just a spectator. If you are calm and you execute, you are a leader. The competitive advantage. When you commit to this practice, you gain a superpower that is rare in the modern world. You become the eye of the storm. Look around you. The world is addicted to outrage. People are reactive, thin-skinned, and volatile. They are constantly being hijacked by the news, by their bosses, by the traffic. They are exhausted because emotional volatility burns energy at a terrifying rate. When you walk into a room with a regulated nervous system, you change the temperature of that room. People can feel it. When a crisis hits and everyone else is spinning out, your steadiness becomes a magnet. You become the person others look to for direction. This is not because you are the smartest person in the room. It is because you are the only one whose judgment is not being clouded by the red fog. Your relationships improve because you stop saying things you cannot take back. Your decision-making speed increases because you are not wasting time managing internal drama. You stop being a victim of your moods. You wake up, and regardless of the weather inside your head, you have the tools to dial it to the setting required for the job. The missing link. You have now built a formidable structure. You have a true north that guides you. You have an identity that stabilizes you. You have a morning design that launches you. And now, you have the emotional balance to endure the friction of the day without burning out. But there is a gap. You can be calm, you can be focused, and you can be reliable, but you can still be wrong. You can calmly and reliably drive your car off a cliff if you do not know how to read the road. Being steady is not enough. You must be wise. You are faced with 1,000 choices every day, complex trade-offs, ethical dilemmas, resource constraints. How do you know which move is the right move? How do you turn your good intentions into effective action in the real world, where the rules are constantly changing and the map is never perfect? You need a mechanism for making decisions that are not just safe, but precise. You need to bridge the gap between the abstract idea of doing good and the concrete reality of doing it right now. The next piece of the puzzle is the engine of judgment itself. 5. Wise action. There is a graveyard filled with the careers and reputations of people who meant well. You know these people. You might even be one of them. They have high ideals. They have clear goals. They have read all the books on leadership and virtue. Yet, when they step into the arena of the real world, they leave a trail of chaos behind them. They delay a difficult decision because they want to be kind, only to cause more pain later when the problem explodes. They rush into a partnership because they want to be decisive, only to find themselves legally bound to a disaster. They have the right compass, but they keep walking off cliffs. This is the tragedy of the modern high performer. You have spent years refining your true north. You have forged an identity that values integrity. You have designed your morning to protect your focus. You have balanced your emotions. But none of that matters if you cannot translate those internal states into external moves that actually work. The gap between a good intention and a good result is where most lives fall apart. You can be the most virtuous person in the room, but if you cannot read the room, you are dangerous. You do not need more theory. You need a mechanism that turns your high-minded values into concrete, effective action in the messy, shifting reality of your daily life. You need to master the art of the fitting act. The graveyard of good intentions. Aristotle had a specific word for this capability. He called it Phronesis. It is often translated as practical wisdom, but a better translation might be moral street smarts. It is the ability to look at a complex, high-stakes situation, identify the variables, and choose the one specific action that hits the target. Most people think wisdom is about knowing universal rules. They think, always tell the truth or never give up. But universal rules are useless in specific situations. Is it wise to tell the brutal truth to a fragile team member 5 minutes before a major presentation? Is it wise to never give up on a project that is draining your company's accounts dry? Wisdom is not about templates, it is about particulars. It is about realizing that the right move yesterday might be the wrong move today because the context has changed. If you rely on rigid scripts, you become brittle. You become the bureaucrat who follows the procedure while the building burns down. We are going to install a decision engine in your mind. This is not a philosophy lecture. It is a 4-step loop that you will run dozens of times a day. It transforms you from a person who means well into a person who executes with surgical precision. The navigation loop. To practice phronesis, you must stop reacting and start deliberating, but you cannot take an hour to deliberate every time you need to send an email. You need a cycle that is fast, repeatable, and accurate. We call this the wise action loop. The first step is to name the end. Before you make a move, Whether it is firing off a text message or signing a contract, you must pause for 3 seconds and ask, what is the combination of virtue and result I am aiming for? Most people only aim for the result. They want the contract signed. But if you sign the contract by lying about your capacity, you have failed the test of wisdom. You must pair the virtue with the outcome. I want to secure this deal, result, while being transparent about our timeline, virtue. This single sentence clarifies the target. If you do not know the target, you cannot hit it. The second step is to read the situation. You must become a cold, clinical observer of reality. Strip away your assumptions. What are the hard facts? What are the constraints? Who are the people involved? And what are their incentives? If you are dealing with a client who is terrified of risk, a bold, aggressive pitch is not wise. It is stupid. It ignores the reality of the human being in front of you. You must map the terrain before you march. The third step is to choose the fitting act. This brings us back to the golden mean. You are looking for the action that fits the moment perfectly. It is not too much, and it's not too little. If an employee makes a mistake, the deficiency is to say nothing, cowardice. The excess is to scream at them, rashness. The fitting act is a clear, firm correction delivered immediately. You are looking for the smallest decisive move. What is the action that solves the problem with the least amount of drama and the highest amount of integrity? The fourth step is to log the outcome. This is where the learning happens. You take action, and then you watch what happens. Did it work? Did you get the result? Did you maintain your virtue? If yes, you keep that pattern. If no, you adjust. You treat your life as a laboratory. Every decision is an experiment. If you do not review the data, you are doomed to repeat your errors. The map of responsibilities. One of the greatest enemies of wise action is simply forgetting what you are supposed to be doing. You are juggling multiple roles: parent, manager, partner, creator. When you are overwhelmed, you drop balls. And when you drop balls, you break promises. And when you break promises, your identity as a reliable person begins to rot. You cannot be wise if you are chaotic. You need a responsibility map. Sit down and list every role you play. Next to each role, list the standing promises you have made. To your team, you promised clear direction. To your investors, you promised transparency. To your family, you promised presence. Once you see the map, you will realize where the cracks are. You will see that you have overcommitted. Wisdom requires you to look at this map and make hard choices. You may need to renegotiate a promise. You may need to delegate a task. But you cannot pretend the obligations do not exist. This map is your dashboard. You review it weekly. It prevents the drift that leads to crisis. When you know exactly what is expected of you, you can execute with confidence. You stop reacting to whoever is screaming the loudest and start attending to what is actually important. The paralysis trap. There is a danger here. When you start analyzing every decision, you can fall into analysis paralysis. You can spend 20 minutes debating the virtuous way to word a Slack message. This is not wisdom. This is fear dressed up as philosophy. Speed is a virtue. In many situations, a good decision made now is better than a perfect decision made next week. To prevent paralysis, use the 2 doors rule. Ask yourself, is this decision reversible? If I walk through this door and I am wrong, can I walk back out? If the answer is yes, you move fast. You make the best call you can in 60 seconds, and you go. Most decisions are reversible. The email can be clarified, the meeting can be rescheduled, the project can be pivoted. If the decision is irreversible, if the door locks behind you, then you slow down. You run the full loop. You consult your responsibility map. You deliberate, but do not treat a reversible decision like a fatal one. That is a waste of your cognitive resources. The illusion of the script. You will be tempted to find a shortcut. You will want a script that tells you exactly what to do in every situation. You want a rule book. If the client says X, say Y. Scripts are for telemarketers, not for leaders. Life is too complex for a script. The moment you stop reading the situation and start reading a script, you have stopped being present. You have stopped engaging your phronesis. Wisdom requires you to be awake. It requires you to be uncomfortable. It demands that you take responsibility for the specific texture of the moment. A script is a way of hiding. It is a way of saying, "It wasn't my fault. I followed the procedure." Wise action means owning the result. It means saying, "I looked at the facts, I aimed for the good, and I made this choice. I own it." This ownership is what builds trust. People follow leaders who own their choices, even the bad ones. They run from leaders who hide behind rules. The feedback loop of character. When you start living this way, running the wise action loop dozens of times a day, something profound happens. You stop seeing ethics as a burden and start seeing it as a performance advantage. You realize that doing the right thing is actually the most efficient way to live. Lying is inefficient because you have to remember the lie. Cheating is inefficient because you have to cover your tracks. Being reactive is inefficient because you have to clean up the mess. Wise action is clean. It cuts through the noise. It solves the problem the first time. You build a reputation for being the person who always knows what to do. When the crisis hits and everyone else is panicking, you are running your loop. Name the end. Read the situation. Choose the act. Log the outcome. You become the anchor. You become the person who can be trusted with power because you know how to use it. You are not just a person with good values. You are a person with good judgment. The next ceiling. You are now operating with a level of clarity that sets you apart. You are aiming correctly. You are stable. You are launched. You are balanced. And you are wise. You are making the right moves. But here is the brutal truth. You can know exactly what the right move is, and you can still fail to execute it because you simply aren't good enough at the craft. You can have the wisdom to know that you need to write a groundbreaking proposal to save the company. You can have the emotional balance to sit down and do it. You can have the morning routine that gives you the time. But if you are a mediocre writer, the proposal will fail. Wisdom directs your skill, but it cannot replace it. If your skills are stagnant, your wisdom has a ceiling. You can be the wisest amateur in the world, but you will still be beaten by the professional who has mastered the technical details of the game. To fully realize your potential, you cannot just be a good person. You must be a capable one. You must have a mechanism for getting better at the actual work you do, day after day, year after year. You need to stop practicing your craft by accident and start practicing it by design. The gap between where you are and where you need to be is not just about character, it is about competence. And competence does not happen by magic. It happens by a specific, grueling, and beautiful process that we are about to unlock. Chapter 6, Skill Growth. There is a specific type of exhaustion that comes not from working too hard, but from working without getting better. You know this feeling. You look at your output this month, and it looks suspiciously like your output from last year. You are busy. You are grinding. You are putting in the hours. But deep down, you harbor a terrifying suspicion that you have plateaued. You are not gaining 10 years of experience. You are repeating your first year of experience 10 times. This stagnation is the silent killer of high performers. It is the reason why the ambitious junior employee eventually becomes the bitter middle manager. They stopped growing, not because they stopped trying, but because they stopped practicing. They confused doing the job with mastering the craft. You have spent the last few chapters building a foundation of character. You have a true north, a forged identity, a protected morning, balanced emotions, and wise action. You are a stable, reliable, virtuous human being. That is a massive achievement. But in the marketplace of value, stability is just the price of admission. If you want to flourish, if you want to achieve the Aristotelian ideal of arete, excellence, you must be more than just good. You must be capable. Virtue without skill is ineffective. You can have the courage to deliver a speech, but if you are a terrible speaker, your message will die in the air. You can have the integrity to lead a team, but if you lack the technical skills of management, you will drive the team into the ground. This chapter is about closing the gap between your potential and your performance. We are going to turn your daily work into a laboratory where you get better on purpose every single week. The illusion of competence. Most people believe that if they just keep showing up, they will inevitably become masters. This is a lie. Mere repetition does not create excellence, it creates permanence. If you type with 2 fingers every day for 20 years, you will not suddenly wake up one day typing like a court stenographer. You will just be deeply, permanently committed to a 2-finger habit. Aristotle understood that excellence is a habit, but he also understood that it must be guided by reason. It requires techne, art or craft. To build techne, you cannot just work, you must practice, and there is a profound difference between the two. Work is about getting it done. Practice is about getting it right. Work focuses on the output. Practice focuses on the process. When you are working, you are trying to minimize mistakes to get the result. When you are practicing, you are often seeking mistakes to find the lesson. The problem is that you stop practicing the moment you become good enough to not get fired. You reach a level of acceptable competence, your brain goes on autopilot, and your growth curve flattens out. To break this ceiling, you need to install a mechanism that forces you off autopilot. You need a loop that turns your daily tasks back into deliberate training. The 5-beat engine. We are going to replace the vague goal of getting better with a mechanical process. This is the 5-beat practice loop. It is a cycle you can run on any skill: writing, negotiating, coding, listening, designing. It strips away the ego and leaves only the raw data of improvement. The first beat is observe. You cannot hit a target you cannot see. Most people consume excellence without analyzing it. They read a great memo and think, that was good. You must stop consuming and start reverse engineering. Spend 5 minutes studying a model of the skill you want to build. Do not just look at it. Take it apart. Why did that sentence work? Why did that negotiation tactic succeed? Find the structure underneath the surface. Extract one rule you can test. The second beat is attempt. This is where you do the work, but with a twist. You are not just writing an email, you are doing 5 tight reps of a specific subskill. If you're trying to improve your clarity, you write the opening line of your email 5 times, trying to make it sharper each time. You time box it. You focus on the form, not just the finish line. The third beat is measure. This is the step that separates the pros from the amateurs. You must score your attempt. You give yourself a simple 1 to 5 rating based on the criteria you set. This forces you to be honest. Most people hide from metrics because they are afraid of the answer. They prefer the comfortable delusion that they are doing great. You must kill that delusion. If it was a 3, mark it a 3. A 3 is not a failure, it is a coordinate on a map. The fourth beat is correct. A score is useless without an adjustment. You must identify one concrete tweak, not be better next time. That is a wish, not a plan. The correction must be specific. I used passive voice, I will switch to active voice. I interrupted the client, I will wait 2 seconds before speaking. The fifth beat is repeat. You schedule the next set of reps. You do not wait for inspiration, you put it on the calendar. The granularity of greatness. The biggest mistake you will make when starting this loop is trying to fix everything at once. You will say, I want to be a better leader. That is too big. You cannot practice leadership. You can practice delivering bad news clearly. You can practice running a meeting that ends on time. You can practice asking open-ended questions. Excellence lives in the details. You must break your craft down into its smallest valuable units. If you are a writer, do not try to write better. Pick one subskill, writing strong transitions. Spend 2 weeks on nothing but transitions. Run the loop. Observe how the masters do it. Attempt it 5 times a day. Score your transitions. Fix them. When you narrow your focus, you increase your leverage. You are applying all your cognitive power to a single point of failure. This is how you break through a plateau. You do not smash the whole wall at once. You remove one brick at a time. Measuring the invisible. In the corporate world, we are obsessed with vanity metrics. Revenue, likes, clicks. These are lagging indicators. They tell you what happened, not why it happened. To build a life that runs on rails, you need to measure the inputs. You need virtue metrics. These are the numbers that track your alignment with your true north. If you claim to be a person of integrity, track promises kept per week. If you claim to value excellence, track error detection to correction time. How long does it take you to fix a mistake once you find it? If you claim to value courage, track courageous conversations initiated. These numbers will not make you feel good, but they will make you good. They strip away the story you tell yourself about your character and show you the reality of your actions. If you think you are reliable, but your log shows you broke 3 small promises last week, you have work to do. This is not about self-flagellation. It is about calibration. You cannot manage what you do not measure. The ego barrier. There is a reason most people do not do this. It hurts. It is painful to look at your work, score it a 2 out of 5, and ask a peer for a correction. It insults your ego. Your ego wants to be seen as a natural genius. It wants to believe that you are already perfect and that any failure is the fault of the system, the market, or your boss. Humility is not a weakness. It is a learning accelerator. The person who is willing to look foolish today in order to be masterful tomorrow will always beat the person who is pretending to be masterful today. You must lower your defenses. When you ask for feedback, do not defend your work. Do not explain why you did it that way. Just say, "Thank you," and go back to the forge. The goal is not to prove you are smart. The goal is to become effective. Every time you defend a mistake, you are hugging an anchor. Let it go. The compound interest of skill. When you install this loop, the results will not be visible on day 1. You will do your 5 reps, you will score your work, and you will feel exactly the same. This is the deception of compounding. In the beginning, the curve is flat. But if you improve a sub-skill by just 1% a week, you are not just adding to your competence, you are multiplying your leverage. Better writing means your emails get answered faster, which means your projects move smoother, which means you have more time to think, which means your strategy improves. Competence compounds trust. When people see that you are visibly improving, that you are better this month than you were last month, they begin to trust you with larger scopes. They stop micromanaging you because they know you are micromanaging yourself. Autonomy is not given, it is harvested from the soil of competence. Troubleshooting the practice. You will face friction. The most common failure mode is drifting practice. You start the week strong, but by Wednesday, the whirlwind of urgent tasks takes over, and you stop doing your reps. You revert to working instead of practicing. The fix is to protect the slot. You need a specific time for your practice loop. It might be the first 20 minutes of your deep work block. It might be the last 15 minutes of the day. Treat it as a meeting with your future self. If you do not show up, you are standing yourself up. Another trap is vague targets. You score yourself a 4 because you felt pretty good about the work. This is useless. You must define what a 3 means and what a 5 means before you start. A 5 on a report might mean 0 typos, clear executive summary, data sourced. If you have 1 typo, it is not a 5. Be ruthless with your scoring. Grade yourself harder than the market ever will, and the market will never be able to hurt you. The relentless improver. Imagine who you will be in 1 year if you follow this path. While your peers are repeating the same mistakes, getting slightly more cynical and slightly more tired, you are systematically upgrading your operating system. You have mastered 26 new sub-skills, 1 every 2 weeks. You write with piercing clarity. You negotiate with calm precision. You listen with total focus. You become a person who is not just aging, but ripening. You are becoming formidable. This is the promise of the Aristotelian life. It is not a static state of being good. It is a dynamic state of becoming excellent. But as your skills grow and your capacity expands, a new problem will emerge. You are now a high-performance machine. You have the aim, the identity, the focus, the balance, the wisdom, and the skill. The world will notice. And because the world loves competence, it will reward you with the one thing that can destroy everything you have built. It will reward you with more. More offers, more projects, more responsibilities, more demands on your time. Your competence will become a magnet for complexity. You will find yourself pulled in a dozen directions by people who want a piece of your stability. You will face the danger of success, the fragmentation of your soul across too many obligations. You have built the engine, and you have upgraded the horsepower. Now, you must design the chassis that holds it all together without shaking apart at high speeds. You need a way to integrate your competing roles into a single coherent rhythm. If you do not, the very excellence you have cultivated will become the weight that crushes you. Chapter 7. Work Harmony. Everything you know about work-life balance is a trap. The very phrase suggests a zero-sum game, a tug-of-war where two enemies are pulling on a rope. If work wins, life loses. If life wins, work suffers. You spend your days feeling guilty when you are working because you are not with your family, and anxious when you are with your family because you are not working. You are torn apart by your own roles, bleeding energy into the friction between them. This creates a fractured existence. You become a collection of competing interests rather than a unified human being. You try to solve this by balancing the scales, allocating exactly 50% of your time here and 50% there, but this is a fool's errand. Life is not a static scale, it is a dynamic performance. Aristotle did not seek balance, he sought harmony. There is a profound difference. Balance is keeping two heavy weights from crashing to the floor. Harmony is different notes coming together to form a chord. In a harmonious life, your roles do not compete, they collaborate. Your work as a leader sharpens your patience as a parent. Your discipline in your craft fuels your reliability as a partner. This chapter is about destroying the myth of balance and building a work harmony that allows you to carry your purpose cleanly through the week without tearing yourself apart. The triangulation of purpose. The root cause of your stress is not that you have too much to do. It is that your doings are at war with each other. You have not aligned your ends. To fix this, we use a tool called goal triangulation. Imagine a triangle. The 3 points are virtue, contribution, and craft. Virtue is who you are becoming. It is your character, your courage, your fairness, your wisdom. Contribution is who you serve. It is your team, your family, your clients. Craft is what you build. It is your skills, your projects, your output. In a harmonious life, every major commitment sits in the center of this triangle. If you take a job that pays well, craft, but forces you to deceive customers, violating virtue, and keeps you away from your children for months, violating contribution, you will never find harmony. You will only find disintegration. You must audit your roles against this triangle. Does your role as a manager support your virtue of fairness? Does your obsession with your hobby support your contribution to your community? When you align these points, the friction disappears. You stop switching masks between work and home. You become one person, moving in one direction across different contexts. Designing the weekly cadence. Once your goals are triangulated, you must design the container for them. Most people wake up and let other people design their day. They open their calendar and see a confetti cannon of random meetings, scattered tasks, and urgent interruptions. This is not a schedule. It is a crime scene. You cannot find harmony in chaos. You need a rhythm. The unit of execution for a high performer is not the day, it is the week. A day is too short to do everything, but a week is long enough to hit every note if you design it correctly. We are going to build a weekly template. This is not a rigid prison. It is a structure that creates freedom. First, you place your anchors. These are the non-negotiables. If deep work is essential to your craft, you block it first. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., locked. If your relationship is essential to your contribution, you block date night. Friday, 6 p.m., locked. These blocks are immovable objects. You do not schedule over them, you schedule around them. Next, you define your windows. Do not let meetings sprinkle themselves across your week like weeds. Corral them. Create specific windows for administrative work and meetings. Maybe you only take calls on Monday and Wednesday afternoons. This protects your cognitive switching costs. When you batch similar tasks, you enter a flow state. When you switch from deep analysis to a chaotic conference call and back again, you lobotomize your IQ. Finally, you use theme days. Give each day a singular focus. Monday is for management. Tuesday is for creation. Wednesday is for marketing. When you wake up, you know exactly what mode you need to be in. This reduces decision fatigue to zero. You are not wondering what to do, you are simply executing the theme. The law of capacity caps. There is a dangerous lie that says, if I just work harder, I can do it all. No, you cannot. You are a biological organism with finite limits. If you try to pour 5 gallons of water into a 1-gallon bucket, you do not get 5 gallons of water. You get a wet floor. Harmony requires limits. You must install capacity caps. You must look at your life and define the maximum load you can carry without breaking your machine. Set a cap on active projects. I will have no more than 3 active initiatives at one time. If a fourth one comes along, one of the first 3 must finish or pause. This forces you to prioritize. It forces you to say the most powerful word in the English language, no. Set a cap on your daily decisions. If you are exhausted by 4 p.m., it is because you have uncapped your decision load. Automate the trivial, delegate the routine, save your decision capital for the moves that actually move the needle. Set a cap on urgency. You cannot live in fire drill mode forever. Decide how much reactive time you are willing to tolerate. If your job demands 100% reactivity and your nature demands deep thought, you are in the wrong job. That is not a scheduling problem. That is a career problem. The architecture of trade-offs. Even with the best template and the strictest caps, conflicts will happen. Your boss will demand a report during your deep work block. Your child will get sick during a critical meeting. This is reality. The amateur panics and tries to do both, failing at both. The pro has pre-decided trade-off rules. You need to write these down before the crisis hits. If a client emergency conflicts with administrative work, the client wins. If a work crisis conflicts with a family health issue, the family wins. If a deep work block conflicts with a routine status meeting, the deep work wins. When you have these rules, you do not have to agonize in the moment. You do not have to weigh the guilt. You simply apply the rule. I cannot make that meeting. I have a conflict. You say it with zero emotion because the decision was made days ago, in a moment of cool reflection, aligned with your true north. The Friday replan. Entropy is real. The universe tends toward disorder. Your perfectly designed week will drift. New requests will clutter your inbox. Old habits will creep back in. To maintain harmony, you need a reset button. This is the Friday replan. Before you close your laptop for the weekend, you look at the wreckage of the past week and the plan for the next one. You look for the schedule creep. Did a meeting bleed into your deep work? Did you skip your relationship anchor? You do not judge yourself, you just adjust the plan. You reclaim the territory. You look at next week and ask, where are the collisions? You spot them now while they are hypothetical, and you solve them. You move the meeting. You decline the invite. You negotiate the deadline. You enter the weekend with a clear mind because you know exactly how next week is going to run. You are not carrying the open loops of anxiety in your head. You have closed the loops. The reciprocity of body and mind. We often treat our bodies as taxis for our brains, driving them from meeting to meeting. But Aristotle knew that the human being is a composite of body and soul. You cannot have a harmonious mind in a chaotic body. Work harmony requires physical steadiness. If you are sleep-deprived, fueled by stimulants, and sedentary, your emotional regulation will shatter. Your virtue dials from Chapter 4 will malfunction. You will snap at people. You will make rash decisions. You must view your physical routine not as wellness or vanity, but as infrastructure. Your sleep schedule is the foundation of your judgment. Your movement is the regulation of your stress hormones. If you sacrifice your physical stability to get 1 more hour of work done, you are making a bad trade. You are trading high-quality judgment for low-quality output. The sound of alignment. When you get this right, the feeling is unmistakable. It is not that the work becomes easy, the work is still hard, but the friction is gone. You wake up on Tuesday knowing it's a deep work day. You sit down, and because you have protected the window, you sink into the task. You are not checking your phone because you know you have an admin window at 3 p.m. You are fully present. At 6 p.m., you switch modes. You are with your family or your friends. You are not checking email under the dinner table because you know the work is contained. You have respected the limit. Your team begins to rely on your rhythm. They know when to reach you and when not to. They stop sending you panic texts because they know you have a system. Your steadiness becomes their steadiness. You are no longer the bottleneck of chaos. You are the metronome of order. The hidden saboteur. You have built a magnificent machine. You have the compass, true north, the engine, identity, the launchpad, morning, the stabilizer, emotion, the steering, wise action, the turbo, skill, and the chassis, harmony. You are operating at a level few people ever reach. You are effective, calm, and purposeful. But there is one final danger. It is the danger of success itself. As you execute week after week, you will accumulate wins, but you will also accumulate subtle errors. You will develop blind spots. You will start to believe your own press. You will think that because you are winning, you are right about everything. Success can mask the early warning signs of failure. You can be running fast in the wrong direction for a long time before you hit the wall. To prevent this, to ensure that your trajectory remains true over the span of decades, you need a mechanism that goes deeper than a weekly schedule. You need a way to harvest the wisdom from your own life, to catch the signal amidst the noise, and to confront the hard truths before they destroy you. You need to stop doing and start seeing. You need to master the art of the deep review. Chapter 8, Deep Review. There is a phenomenon that pilots and high-stakes operators know well. It is called the blur. You experience it when you are moving so fast and executing so many tasks that your days begin to bleed into one another. You reach the end of the month, and you know you were busy, you know you were stressed, and you know you were tired, but you cannot actually recall what you achieved. You cannot name the lessons you learned. You are just a blur of motion. This is dangerous. When you live in the blur, you are doomed to repeat the same mistakes. You have a difficult conversation on Tuesday that goes poorly, and because you never stop to analyze why, you have the exact same poor conversation on Thursday. You are not accumulating wisdom, you are just accumulating mileage. You are running on a treadmill, sweating profusely, but staying in the exact same place geographically and characterologically. We are going to stop the treadmill. We are going to install the final piece of the Aristotelian operating system. It is a mechanism that converts the raw, chaotic data of your day into refined wisdom for your future. It is the art of the deep review. This is how you close the loop. This is how you ensure that today's struggle becomes tomorrow's strategy. The black box of your life. Aristotle argued that the highest human activity was not labor, nor politics, nor even war. It was theoria, contemplation. He believed that while action is necessary, it is reflection that makes us human. Action without reflection is just instinct. It is the behavior of an ant, not a rational being. Modern cognitive science backs this up. Your brain is a terrible historian. It edits your memories to protect your ego. It softens your failures and exaggerates your victories. If you wait a week to review a decision, your brain will have already rewritten the script to make you look like the hero or the victim. You lose the data. To build a life that runs on rails, you need to capture the data while it is fresh. You need to treat your day like a flight recorder, a black box. You need to open it up, look at the flight path, see where you drifted, and adjust the coordinates for tomorrow. This is not about keeping a diary where you complain about your feelings. It is about tactical analysis. It is about harvesting the learning so you don't have to pay the tuition twice. The 10-minute harvest. You might be thinking that you do not have time for deep contemplation. You are barely keeping your head above water as it is. But this is a leverage calculation. 10 minutes of review can save you 10 hours of cleanup work caused by repeated errors. We are going to implement a daily closeout protocol. It takes exactly 10 minutes. It happens right before you leave your work mode. It consists of 3 specific moves. The first move is the WEF, win, error, fix. You take a blank sheet of paper or a digital note and you write down one win from the day. This is crucial because your brain is wired to focus on threats and failures. You need to manually index your successes to maintain morale. Next, you write down one error. Be cold and clinical. Did you interrupt someone? Did you lose focus? Finally, and most importantly, you write the fix. What is the specific behavioral change you will make tomorrow to prevent that error? I will leave my phone in the drawer during the meeting. The second move is the setup. You look at tomorrow's calendar. You identify the hard start task we discussed in Chapter 3. You write it down. You clear your physical desktop so that when you walk in tomorrow morning, there is zero friction. You are building a bridge for your future self to walk across. The third move is the shutdown phrase. This is a psychological trigger. In our always-on digital world, work never naturally ends. You have to artificially kill it. You need a phrase that signals to your brain that the shop is closed. It can be system offline, or the day is done, or simply closing your laptop with a deliberate snap. Once you say the phrase, you do not check email. You do not just quickly look at Slack. You are done. You protect your recovery so you can fight again tomorrow. The weekly reset. The daily review handles the tactics, but you also need a strategy. You need to zoom out. Once a week, usually on a Friday afternoon or Sunday morning, you need to conduct a long arc reset. This is where you look at the metrics you gathered in Chapter 6. You look at your identity reps from Chapter 2. You look at your responsibility map from Chapter 5. You are the CEO of your own life, reviewing the quarterly report. Are you drifting from your true north? Are you hitting your skill reps? If you see a pattern of failure, say you have missed your deep work block 3 weeks in a row, you do not beat yourself up. You treat it as an engineering problem. The current system is failing. You need an experiment. You decide on one change for the next week. I will move deep work to 8 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. This weekly session is also where you protect skole. This is the Greek word for leisure, but not the kind of leisure that involves scrolling social media. It means unhurried learning. It means time set aside to think without a specific output requirement. You need to block 30 minutes where you just sit and think about your trajectory. In a noise-filled world, silence is a competitive advantage. It is in the silence that you realize you are climbing the wrong ladder. It is in the silence that you remember who you are. Rehearsing for chaos. There is a myth that planning is useless because the world is unpredictable. Why bother reviewing and planning, the skeptic asks, when everything is going to change by Monday morning? This misses the point entirely. We do not plan to predict the future. We plan to prepare our character. Part of your deep review process involves uncertainty rehearsal. You look at the week ahead and ask, what could go wrong? The client could hate the pitch. The funding could fall through. You could get sick. You list these disruptions, and then you pre-select your response. You use the if-then logic. If the client hates the pitch, then I will practice the virtue of curiosity and ask questions rather than getting defensive. If the funding falls through, then I will practice the virtue of resilience and immediately draft a plan B. By rehearsing these scenarios, you are training your nervous system. When the chaos actually hits, you are not surprised. You have been there before in your mind. You respond rather than react. You remain steady while everyone else is losing their heads. This is the ultimate payout of the review. You stop fearing the unknown because you have already brought your best self to meet it. The trap of perfectionism. The biggest enemy of the deep review is the desire to write a memoir. You sit down to review your day, and you feel the pressure to write profound, grammatically perfect paragraphs about your feelings. You stare at the blank page, feel overwhelmed, and do nothing. Kill the poet. You are a scientist collecting data. Use bullet points. Use sentence fragments. Be messy. The goal is speed and honesty, not literature. If your review takes more than 10 minutes, you are doing it wrong. Set a timer. When the timer goes off, you stop. Another trap is the vague fix. You identify an error, I was distracted, and you write a fix like be more focused. That is not a fix, that is a wish. A fix must be a physical action. Turn off Wi-Fi, put on noise-canceling headphones, close the door. If you cannot film the fix with a camera, it is not specific enough. The compounding of wisdom. When you first start this practice, it will feel mechanical. You will write down your WEF, and it will feel like just another task. But after 2 weeks, you will notice something. You will be in a meeting, about to interrupt someone, and your brain will flash a warning. We wrote this down as an error yesterday, and you will stop. You will catch yourself. You will correct the behavior in real time. This is the feedback loop closing. After a month, you will look back at your weekly reviews and see a trend. You will see that you are consistently exhausted on Tuesdays. You will realize your schedule is broken, and you will fix it. You will stop making the same unforced errors. After a year, you will be a different person. You will have harvested 365 days of lessons. You will have made 365 micro-adjustments to your trajectory. While your peers have been sleepwalking through their careers, repeating the same year over and over, you have been spiraling upward. You have been compounding wisdom. The long arc. This practice connects your daily grind to your ultimate telos. It is easy to lose sight of your true north when you are buried in emails. The deep review forces you to lift your head. It forces you to ask, did the work I did today actually move me toward the person I want to be? Sometimes the answer is no, and that is painful. But it is better to know it now, on a Tuesday night, than to wake up in 10 years and realize you wasted a decade. The review keeps you honest. It keeps you aligned. It ensures that your ladder is leaning against the right wall. You have now assembled all the components. You have the aim. You have the identity. You have the morning launch. You have the emotional balance. You have the wise decision loops. You have the skill practice. You have the weekly harmony. And you have the nightly review. You have a complete system for living well. You have the blueprint that built Aristotle. But a blueprint is not a building. A system that sits on paper is nothing but ink. There is a vast, terrifying gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. You can read this whole book, nod your head, agree with every word, and still change absolutely nothing. The final step is not about adding more information. It is about synthesis. It is about taking these separate parts and fusing them into a single, unbreakable chain of action. It is about the moment of ignition. We have built the engine. Now we have to turn the key. And to do that, you need to understand the one thing that stops almost everyone from beginning. Chapter 9, Begin Now. You are currently stuck in the waiting room. It is a comfortable place. It is filled with people who are reading books, listening to podcasts, and planning their futures. They are waiting for a sign. They are waiting to feel ready. They are waiting for the perfect time, when the economy is stable, their children are grown, and their motivation is high. They believe that once the conditions are right, they will finally begin the work of their lives. But you know the truth, or you would not have made it to the final chapter of this book. The waiting room is a lie. The conditions will never be right. The chaos will never subside. The feeling of readiness is not a prerequisite for action. It is the result of action. You do not think your way into a new way of living. You live your way into a new way of thinking. We have spent 8 chapters disassembling the engine of human flourishing. We have looked at the parts in isolation, but a pile of parts is not a car. A pile of parts does not move. To make it move, you must assemble the machine, turn the key, and press the accelerator. You must synthesize the system and move. The point of this book was never to give you more knowledge. The point was to give you momentum, the unbreakable chain. Let us look at the machine we have built, not as a list of chapters, but as a single living organism. It starts with your aim. You defined your true north, your telos. This is your compass. Without it, you are just a highly efficient drifter. But a compass needs a traveler, so you entered the identity forge. You stopped relying on willpower and started relying on character. You translated your values into I am statements and proved them with small, daily reps. With a compass and a character, you needed a launch pad. You designed the morning to protect your attention from the thieves of urgency. You learned to secure the first hour, so the day obeys you. But the day is full of friction, so you learned emotion balance. You trained your feelings to serve your judgment, finding the golden mean between rashness and cowardice. With a steady hand, you began to execute. You adopted wise action loops to make decisions that fit the particulars of the moment. You realized that good intentions are not enough. You need skill. So, you committed to skill growth, practicing your craft with the rigor of a master. You wove these threads into a weekly harmony, ensuring your roles collaborate rather than compete. And finally, you installed the black box of the deep review to harvest wisdom from your own experience. Do you see how they interlock? This is not a menu where you pick and choose. It is a chain. Your aim dictates your identity. Your identity drives your morning. Your morning sets your emotional baseline. Your emotions inform your judgment. Your judgment directs your skills fulfill your roles, and your review corrects your aim. If you break one link, the chain goes slack. If you ignore your emotions, your judgment fails. If you ignore your review, your aim drifts. But when you forge every link, you create a flywheel. The first turn is heavy, the second is easier. By the 100th turn, the momentum of your own life carries you. The fortress of control. When you synthesize this system, you gain the only power that actually matters, the power to control the controllables. The world is increasingly volatile. Markets crash, pandemics hit, companies merge. If your sense of stability comes from external circumstances, you are building on sand. But this system is a fortress. When the world goes crazy, you do not. You have your true north. You have your morning design. You have your regulation loop. These are always available to you. You replace anxious guessing with calm readiness. You stop asking, "What will happen to me?" and start asking, "Who will I be when it happens?" Your day becomes your proof. You no longer need to promise people that you are reliable. Your actions scream it. You no longer need to tell people you are virtuous. Your decisions demonstrate it. You become a person of weight in a world of lightness. The signal of reliability. This transformation is not just for you. It is the greatest gift you can give to the people around you. In relationships, consistency is the currency of trust. When you are erratic, happy one day, angry the next, focused today, scattered tomorrow, you exhaust the people you love. They have to walk on eggshells, constantly gauging your mood to know which version of you they are getting. When you live by this code, you become a constant. Your partner knows you will keep your promises. Your team knows you will be fair. Your children know you will be present. You regulate your tone, not because you're suppressing your feelings, but because you value the relationship more than your temporary impulse to lash out. This shared calm de-escalates conflict. When you refuse to pick up the rope in a tug-of-war, the war ends. People feel safe bringing you bad news because they know you will respond with wisdom, not rage. Trust deepens. Collaboration improves. You become the anchor that holds the ship steady when the storm hits. The compound interest of virtue. The most surprising outcome of this journey is that it actually gets easier. In the beginning, acting with virtue feels like heavy lifting. You have to force yourself to do the hard start. You have to grit your teeth to regulate your anger. You have to drag yourself to the review. But Aristotle taught us that nature abhors a vacuum. As you repeat these actions, they become your second nature. The friction drops. The defaults become virtuous. You reach a point where it is actually harder to sleep in than to get up. It is harder to lie than to tell the truth. It is harder to skip the review than to do it. This is the compounding of character. Just as compound interest turns a small investment into a fortune over time, compound virtue turns small choices into a massive legacy. Your reputation accelerates your access to opportunities. Those opportunities accelerate your impact. Your impact reinforces your purpose. You end up achieving more with less effort because you are no longer fighting against yourself. You are flowing downstream, carried by the current of your own habits. the moment of ignition. So here we are. The book is closing. The theory is done. The map is laid out. Now comes the terrifying part. Now you have to move. You might feel the urge to read another book. You might feel the urge to plan your transformation for next month. Resist that urge. That is the resistance talking. That is the voice of the amateur who loves the feeling of learning but fears the pain of doing. You do not need more information. You need ignition. Here is your protocol for right now, not later today, right now. First, write your one-sentence telos. Grab a sticky note, a napkin, the back of an envelope. Write down why you are here. Keep it plain. I exist to serve my family and build things that last. Post it where you can see it. Second, set tomorrow's intention and hard start. Decide right now what the first 10 minutes of your workday will be. Clear the desk, open the document, build the bridge. Third, do one courageous micro-act. Is there an email you have been dreading? Send it. Is there an apology you need to make? Make it. Is there a project you need to launch? Write the first paragraph. Do it in the next 5 minutes. The Golden Soul. I want to leave you with one final image. Aristotle spoke of a specific type of person who represented the pinnacle of human flourishing. He called this person the megalapsychos, the great-souled man, or the magnanimous man. This person is not frantic. He does not speak in a shrill voice. He does not walk with a hurried step. He is not easily praised nor easily offended because he knows his own worth. He acts with honor, not because he wants a reward, but because honor is the only clothing that fits him. He is like a gold bar, heavy, solid, and valuable no matter where you put him. This is the payoff. It is not the money, though you will likely make more of it. It is not the accolades, though you will likely earn them. The payoff is the quiet, unshakable knowledge that you are running your life rather than your life running you. The payoff is looking in the mirror and recognizing the person staring back. Lives do not turn in a leap. They turn in a loop. They turn in the small, invisible moments where you choose the hard right over the easy wrong. You have the system. You have the tools. You have the power. The waiting room is closed. The door is open. Begin now.